Welcome along to Snetterton, everybody, for the 8th round of the 2025 GT Cup Championship. It's our third weekend of racing. We've already visited Donington Park, we've already visited Brands Hatch. We're here in Norfolk this weekend under cloudy skies with changeable weather forecast. But we've got our first race of the weekend, the sprint race, coming up for you in a few moments' time. The cars are only now just making their way out of the pit lane, ready to line up on the grid in advance of this 25-minute race that we've got coming up for you. And it's the same usual format in it. We have the sprint race Saturday morning, we'll have our pit stop race later on today, and tomorrow we'll flip that round. We'll have the pit stop race as the first race of the day, and the sprint race will be our final race. We've had changeable weather forecast, as we say. We've had some rain here. The track is dry at the moment, but there's still plenty of grey skies around, which hopefully will not have any role to play in this one. As the cars make their way out onto the grid, we caught up with a few drivers earlier on. It was a wet qualifying session this morning, and Fraser Fenwick, who drives for Top Caps Racing, popped his Lamborghini on pole position, and we caught up with the pole sitter earlier on this morning. Fraser, we've just seen the qualifying session for the sprint race, and here you are as the overall pole sitter. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was absolutely brilliant. You know, I was sat on 208s for a very long time. I was not driving very well. I obviously thought it was wetter than it was, driving like a pure amateur, and then as soon as they said that the time was a 2:05, I knew that I had to put my toe down and get some work done. So now I'm really happy with the time, but I can't thank all my sponsors and everyone that's helped me to get even just to this weekend. You know, we had the crash at Brands Hatch that put our budget in massive jeopardy. You know, we are struggling for the rest of the year now, so I'm really happy to even be here and grateful for absolutely everything.
Happy to be here, but still feeling slightly second-hand after the Brands Hatch incident. I saw you yesterday with a hot water bottle on your back, so physically still struggling.
Yeah, physically, you know, my back and my neck aren't in great shape, but, you know, this could be my last year of racing and I don't want to throw it away, so sometimes you just got to go through the pain because pain is temporary.
You're saying you're taking the pills, you're taking the medication, but when you get in the car, there's nothing like the adrenaline to take the pain away and focus the mind on the job in hand.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, that was my hope coming into the weekend. You know, I've got all the pills that I can, but I was like, as soon as that door closes, I'm hoping the adrenaline kicks in and I'll be absolutely fine, which is what it's doing at the minute. But it does get a bit sore after about 15 minutes, so we'll just have to see how we get on in the sprint.
Well, good luck for the weekend. I hope you feel a little bit better, and well done on pole.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Fraser Fenwick wasn't the only driver that we caught up with earlier on today. We caught up with the current championship leaders, leading by 6 championship points overall, the Feathers Motorsport pairing of Archie Clark and Tom Canning. We had a quick chat to them this morning as well. So Tom, Archie, here we are at Snetterton, the third weekend of racing in the 2025 GT Cup Championship, and you come to Norfolk leading the championship overall.
Yeah, that's it. It's been a really good season so far. I mean, we've been on top a lot, but obviously we've got the success penalties keeping it interesting. We have a couple of quick Ginettas here that are breathing down our necks, so it's been exciting so far, and this weekend definitely throws out something a bit different with the weather, so yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Partnered up with Archie for this season, the two of you working well together?
Really well, yeah, and Archie's come into the team sort of quite late notice before round one. He hasn't had many laps in the car, but he's adapted really quickly. And he's making progress literally every single day we go out, and obviously it's showing in the results now, and yeah, I hope he agrees, but I think it's been going really well so far, so yeah, enjoying it.
Good praise from Tom there, Archie. You seem to have settled in beautifully well with the team and the new car.
Yeah, it's definitely been good, but it's been really helpful having Tom alongside me, coaching me and teaching me about the car, what to do and what not to do, so it's been really good.
Group GTH is a very competitive group.
Yeah, it's really, really good, but I've got the best driver coach with me, so hopefully we can win some more races.
I'm guessing the aspiration for this year is, you know, secure Group GTH championship, but make sure you're absolutely there in the hunt for the overall championship.
That's definitely the plan. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season, and I can't wait to see what it has to offer.
And Tom, for you, you're familiar with the team, you're familiar with the car. A lot of your job, I suppose, over the weekend is A, to go quickly, but B, also to pass on that experience and get the car set up so that Archie's confident and comfortable in it.
Yeah, I mean, Archie's pretty comfortable in anything. He's like I say, he has taken to it really quickly. yeah, I mean, thank you for the praise, but it's down to him. He's the one that gets in the car and drives it well, so it's it's going really well. I think it's more just working as a team. Obviously, the Inspire engineering boys that are running the car and are sort of one of the powers behind Feathers Motorsport. They do a flawless job. They've got loads of experience with the car. Obviously, Simon Rose in a team principal, and he's the one that sort of brought us all together. And yeah, I think it's more about how we all work together, and I think we sort of bounce everything off each other, and between us all there's lots of experience there, and yeah, it's going well.
It's been going beautifully well so far this year. I know there's a long way to go, guys, but good luck in 2025.
Thank you very much.
So there we go, there's our pole sitter for this race and the current championship leaders in their Group GTH Aston Martin. The cars are all fully lined up on the grid. You can see the odd umbrella there on the grid because, again, we've got the grey skies overhead. The rain, I don't think, is particularly falling just as yet, but it doesn't look great out there at the moment. At some point this weekend, we're going to have a wet race. I'm pretty convinced of that looking at the weather forecast. I'd say qualifying was very damp indeed, and Fraser Fenwick was the first to master those conditions in the Group GTC car. If you're wondering what the groups are, then Group GTO is for open specification cars, so cars that maybe might run to GTE or GT2 specification, or older GT3 cars. GT3 is for cars that are homologated to GT3 regulations, so very similar to you'd see racing maybe in a few weekends in the Spa 24 Hours or in British GT, GT3 championships globally. That's Group GT3. Group GTC is where we, for this weekend, see current and earlier model Cup specification cars. They've all been combined, so Group GTB and GTC are combined for this weekend, all running under GTC. So those are Cup and Challenge spec cars, so Ferrari Challenge, Lamborghini Challenge. Group GTH is for GT4 cars, and Group GTA is for lower specification challenge cars like Ginettas. So we're on the Snetterton 300 circuit. Let's have a quick look at the track. So let's have a look at the track. You go off the start-finish line and through two right-hand corners to start with, Ritchie's and the Wilson hairpin. From there, the circuit climbs slightly through the left-hander at Palmer, and then it's into the heavy braking area at Agostini. Quick left-hand flick at Hamilton, through Oggies, and then Williams is an important corner. You carry all the momentum out of there, down the Bentley Straight and into the tricky braking area at Brundle and Nelson. Flat out through the bomb hole and through Coram before you then get to the final corner, Murray's, up the start-finish line, and that is a lap of the Snetterton 300 circuit, which is just under 3 miles long, 2.969 miles. The circuit itself is built on an old REF base, so it's fairly flat, just 9 metres of elevation change throughout the whole of the 3 mile lap. Some tight and some twisty and some technical sections, some flat out corners. There are 12 turns in total, and that's a lap of the Snetterton 300 circuit here in Norfolk. So the cars head off onto their formation lap. Let's guide you through the grid then. Pole position is car number 23. Fraser Fenwick sits on board, and alongside it's the Darren Kell-driven McLaren. Row 2 of the grid, it's Mark Smith in his Paddock Motorsport McLaren, alongside Jared Waberski from Top Cats Racing. The third row of the grid, new to the championship for this weekend, Jack Gadd. He's got Peter Ursig in the Audi sitting alongside. And row 4 of the grid, it's the first of the cars in Group GTH. Owen Hizzy in the Ginetta has for company the 28 car, which is Paul Bailey, out at the wheel of his brand new Ferrari 296 he only took delivery of a few days ago. The fifth row of the grid sees Matt Eddles at the wheel of the Aston Martin. He has got for company Graham Tilley at the wheel of the Triple M Motorsport Lamborghini. And then, as we move on to the next row of the grid, we heard from him earlier on. It's Feathers Motorsport Archie Clark that has got Frank Morris in the Lamborghini alongside. The next row of the grid is the inside of row number 7. It's the leading car in qualifying in Group GTA. Ian Astley will drive, and alongside is Simon Griffiths at the wheel of the Innovation Racing with Cresta Ginetta. Row 8 of the grid, Mac Priestwood will start for Anthony Seddon Racing, and it's the Cayley family Porsche, which is James Cayley for this race. They had problems with gearbox issues yesterday, went to Sussex to pick up new parts and finished at about 2 o'clock this morning repairing it. The penultimate row of the grid is Doc Bush, and he has got Brent Millage for company, and Richard Chamberlain had a few issues in qualifying the orange Porsche, which is always fantastic to see. is off the back of the grid. It's good to see Richard back in the championship this weekend for the first time in 2025. So that's the grid. In tricky conditions, it looks as though we might have had a spin, and that looks as though Doc Bush has been caught out at the wheel of his Porsche. I did say the rain wasn't falling. The rain now definitely is falling, and I suspect all of the cars probably came to the grid on slick tyres, which is about the only tyre you could run because the track was dry. Well, now they're on slick tyres on a damp track, which begs the question, are we going to see any drivers look to the skies and think, hang on a minute, the weather's going to get worse, I'm going to go for wets? Or looking out of my commentary box window, I think you're just going to have to brave it on slicks for the moment, try and get some temperature in them, and I think the track will come back to you. I think it's just a light rain shower at the moment, but it's going to be very, very tricky for these first few laps, and particularly when you think, you know, you're heading up for the first time at racing speed to Ritchie's, you don't know how much grip you've got. You've then got the heavy braking area for the Wilson hairpin, and again, you don't know how much braking grip you've got. So we'll wait and see what happens. Good to see Richard Chamberlain is out there. The orange Porsche is at the tail end of the field. He hasn't raced this car since last August. A bit late to the championship this season because of a small medical issue. He's got his race licence back now, and he's delighted to be back in GT Cup, and that is a firm fan favourite, the orange Porsche, off what will be the very tail end of the field. So windscreen wipers going, grey clouds above, I suspect slick tyres on everybody on a damp track. This is going to make round 8 of the championship very, very interesting indeed. Our first sprint race of the weekend, a 25-minute race, and as the cars head up to the start-finish line, I'm hoping we might just get one lap behind the safety car. They won't go for 2 green flag laps. Some cars are pitting. I thought they might. Some cars are coming in and are going for wets, but we get the race underway. It's going to be a race in the pit lane to change the tyres on the cars, but Fraser Fenwick charges his way up towards Ritchie's for the first time, with Jared Waberski there in second position and Jack Gadd through into third. You can see everybody else in the background changing from what will be slick tyres onto wets, but I personally think that slicks is probably the way to go still, that the track will dry out. Fraser Fenwick locks the brakes and runs a little bit wide up at the Wilson hairpin. Jared Waberski goes through to the lead of the race. Jack Gadd is trying to squeeze his way through into second and is running now on the right hand side of the pole sitter and will go through, I think, on the run up towards Palmer. So Fraser Fenwick drops down into third place. Peter Ursig goes all the way around the outside at the wheel of the Audi, trying to work out where the grip is, but then runs a little bit wide, and then there's a spin for Jack Gadd coming out of Palmer on his slick tyres as he rotates the car, and he's going to have to wait for a gap in the traffic and fire the car up before he gets going again. Such a shame for Jack Gadd, who was looking forward to a good weekend in GT Cup, that has just had that small little spin, but it's very, very tricky out there. Jack is not an inexperienced driver, albeit hasn't raced the Lamborghini before, but he knows how to race quick cars on slick tyres, and was just caught out there. So Fraser Fenwick down into second position under pressure from Peter Ursig's Audi, and look in the background, that is Simon Griffiths at the wheel of the Ginetta in the background, one of the lesser powered cars, but of course the lesser powered cars can use all of their horsepower in these conditions. The ones with more grunt just can't get the power down, and Simon Griffiths is now up into third overall in a car that runs in Group GTH. So down the Bentley Straight they'll go for the first time. Jared Waberski scampering away the single-seater convertee, having raced in GB3 and GB4 the last couple of years. He leads the way, the South African driver. Again, you can just see a little twitch on the car, even at these slow speeds, as he tries to contain the wheel spin, get the power down and try and seek out where the grip is. Peter Ursig in second place, Fraser Fenwick back to third again. Fourth place is Simon Griffiths, and James Cayley is up into fifth place, having qualified 16th on the grid. That's right. Ian Astley is next up, and then Richard Chamberlain, who is 19th on the grid, I think will complete the top 6, won't he, at this stage, or is maybe there in 7th place. So we've had an enormous shuffle of the order, as you would expect with the amount of cars that went into the pit lane. But of course, those cars in the pit lane will now, as far as they're concerned, be on the right tyre. But looking at the rain that was falling, it has lessened quite significantly. So I'm still not sure that changing tyres was the right thing to do. Over the start-finish line they'll go. Jared Waberski leads the way. Doc Bush is about to be lapped already as he brings the silver Team Parker Racing Porsche out of the pit lane area. Peter Ursig in second, Fraser Fenwick in third, Simon Griffiths fourth, James Cayley from Ian Astley, and then next up will be Richard Chamberlain, who is in 7th place at this stage, but has got Mark Smith's McLaren ready to pounce on him. So here comes the Paddock Motorsport McLaren in the hands of the American, who has been very, very quick and consistent in GT Cup so far this year, and he works his way through now up into 7th place and ahead of Richard Chamberlain's Porsche. at McLaren was one of those that did dive to the pit lane. So out of the Wilson hairpin, you can see at that part of the circuit the track looks very wet indeed, and then as they then turn their way through Palmer, there's not a great deal that Ian Astley can do about it. That's an old homologated GT4 car being overtaken by a latest iteration of GT3 McLaren. So like a hot knife through butter, I think that Mark Smith will carve his way. So he's already moved from 8th at the beginning of the lap up to 6th position. And the next guy he's going to want to try and hunt down will be the James Cayley driven Porsche. He works his way past Mac Priestwood's car. Mac is another one of those that's only just come out of the pit lane, having swapped tyres at the start of the race. Mark Smith should fairly easily pick off that Group GTA car. So not going to do it until the exit of Williams. Jared Wilburski is already very much on his own. The end of the first lap, he led by 4.7 seconds nearly over Peter Ursig. But Peter Ursig has now dropped back down into 3rd place again as Fraser Fenwick's got past him. So Fraser Fenwick, having lost 2 places on the first lap, has at least gained one of them back in the early stages of this one as the rain shower has abated. And the track conditions are going to start to improve again for the next 20 minutes or so. Race meeting a few weekends ago where at some point you were on the wrong tyre in a race because it kept flip-flopping from being really needing to be on slicks to be on wets and vice versa. And I think this race is very much going to be very similar to that. At some point you'll be on the wrong tyre. Still looks damp out there, it still looks greasy, but it doesn't look wet enough. There's no real spray coming up at the moment. So maybe suggesting that as long as another rain shower doesn't come in, that slicks might be the way to go in this one. So Ian Astley at the wheel of the BMW, trying to hunt down the Porsche of James Cayley. So this is going to be for 6th and 7th position. Is it over the start-finish line? They'll work their way. So through goes James Cayley, through goes Ian Astley. Yep, for 6th and 7th places, the two of them together. And then Richard Chamberlain in the background is coming under pressure. The fastest lap of the race has gone to the charging American Mark Smith, 2 minutes 7.848 from him. That is still about 3 seconds slower than the qualifying pole time, which was also set in damp conditions. Richard Chamberlain just getting picked off now as well, so that will be another place gained for Mark Smith. I think that probably actually is almost lapping, is it, the Porsche? In fact, sorry, no, that's Darren Kell, I should say, that's gone through and ahead of Richard Chamberlain. So that will be Darren Kell, who is now up into 8th place. Richard Chamberlain drops down into 9th position. Darren Kell, who we see out driving solo again this weekend. I think he's scheduled to share with his son James later on in the season. James also away racing in other championships this year, so he will only join his father on set occasions. As for the championship leading car, Archie Clark, well, how is the Feathers Motorsport machine number 82 getting on at this stage? Well, that is a car that I think also dived for the pit lane in the early stages. Just having a quick look to see exactly where that car is. It's down in 2nd position in Group GT8, running in 14th place overall. Archie Clark. The new Ferrari 296 in the hands of Paul Bailey, the V6 twin-turbo car. Whereas the road car has a hybrid system, the Ferrari 296 Challenge car doesn't have the hybrid system. That is removed by Ferrari, producing just under 700 brake horsepower. Tricky conditions. Paul was, I think, another one of those that opted to dive for the pit lane, quite understandably, at the wheel of his new investment. Looks absolutely glorious, doesn't it, the 296? And it's nice to see this in the championship. Paul Bailey, he's hoping he'll have the Brabham back at Silverstone, which is where we'll be at after this one in the early parts of August. So race continuing at this stage, still with Jared Wilburski leading the way by just 1.4 seconds now from Mark Smith, whose McLaren has really closed in over the race leader. Fraser Fenwick's there in 3rd place. Peter Ursig in the Audis in 4th place at this stage. Then it'd be Simon Griffiths, but Mark Smith is absolutely flying at the wheel of his McLaren. Peter Ursig about to place a lap on Doc Bush, who at the wheel of his Porsche had the spin on the formation lap. And is now still trying to work his way through the order. Down towards Agostini has gone Mark Smith, and he's taken up the lead of the race there, so he managed to squeeze his way through at Agostini and snuck through to pick up the place from Jared Wilburski. So it's the American leads, it's the South African that's there in 2nd position, Fraser Fenwick, who harks from Lincolnshire. is there in 3rd place at this stage. Peter Ursig, the Antipodean, is there in 4th place. Simon Griffiths is 5th. Darren Kell completes the top 6, but for Jared Wilburski, it's just good to see him in the championship. They've had some rotten luck with that car so far this year. An engine issue at Donington Park precluded them from taking part. They subsequently had another engine issue which prevented them being at Brands Hatch. They got the car back out again in testing, and then there was a small fire in the car in testing which curtailed the testing of it. So really now, at round 8 of the championship, they're finally getting their season underway. Good performance it is as well. Peter Ursig's still trying to squeeze his way through the traffic. That's Doc Bush that he goes through and past, former motorcycle racer. There's Doc Bush. Peter Ursig, who's been very successful in this Audi and other championships, knows the car well, prepared by JMH Racing, and is running there in 4th position at this stage. Next car that Peter Ursig would need to catch would be Fraser Fenwick's Pole City number 23 Lamborghini, but last time through the Lamborghini was quicker, and even now the track is definitely drying because cars all of a sudden are going much quicker than they were. The last lap from Peter Ursig's Audi, 2 minutes 15. He's had an overtake to do on this lap, and he comes through, and that's still a 2 minutes 15, slightly quicker than previously he's gone. But the fastest lap of the race we've now had is a 2 minute 4, which is down to the kinds of times they were doing at the end of the qualification session once the track had dried a little. And the lap times are only going to improve further, because it certainly looks as though the cloud level has lifted in the last few minutes. It's looking slightly brighter now, the lux levels, and the track was still damp, will keep drying out with the circulation of the cars. And once you've got a bit of temperature into the slicks, if the track isn't too wet, you can keep that temperature there. That's, I think, the point that we're at the moment. Darren Kell going well at the wheel of the number 88 McLaren. He's looking to try and hunt down the Ginetta of Simon Griffiths that lies ahead, and that should be a reasonably easy task to do at the wheel of a GT3 car. There goes the Ginetta. Where's the McLaren as it comes out of Agostini? There it is now. And he's just trying to now work his way through and past Doc Bush to place a lap on the car that currently runs 6th in Group GTC. So up towards the braking area for Oggies. Is Darren Kell going to try anything? A quick flash of the lights, but he's not going to try anything too rash there. Just going to wait until the opportunity, probably on the Bentley straight, to squeeze his way through and past. And you can see the line there taking a much wider arc through the corner, trying to seek out the less polished tarmac, trying to see if there's some grip somewhere. But as they come onto the Bentley straight, this is where the McLaren should be a match for the Porsche. Flash of the lights again, but he's still not going to be able to get through, actually. So Doc driving well. Remember, I think Doc Bush will be on a wet racing tyre. I think Darren Kell is probably still on the slick and struggling his way round, which is slowly starting to get where he needs it to be. He's also driving slightly cautiously, understandably so in these conditions, but finally picks the pocket of Doc Bush and goes through, and that is purely to lap the Porsche. As Darren Kell is running in 6th place overall. In the meantime, Fraser Fenwick has now set the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 3.349. That is 1.4 seconds quicker than the pole time he set, so conditions now are better than they were at the end of the qualification session. And there's almost a tiny bit of sunlight just breaking through all of a sudden. So anybody that opted to change to a wet tyre will now be struggling and ruining that decision. It will be that some of the cars that went out on wets realised the track wasn't as wet as it was and came in and changed for slicks. Simply don't know. Wilson Hairpin still looks really tricky though, very wet through the Wilson Hairpin and the exit coming down towards Palmer. So I think probably this section of the circuit looks wetter. You get to Palmer and all of a sudden it doesn't look quite as bad, does it, the track there, albeit there's still some splashes of rain on the camera lens there. So we're almost halfway through this first sprint race. Still, you can see the cloud cover is pretty consistent and thick with grey clouds still in the distance, but it does look slightly brighter when you look absolutely towards the horizon. Mark Smith leading the way by 3.2 seconds from Jared Wilburski in 2nd place. But Jared Wilburski did a 2:04.9 last time through. Fraser Fenwick did a 2:03.3. He was 1.6 seconds quicker, and he's only 1.4 seconds behind in the fight, not just for 2nd and 3rd. That will also be the fight for the lead of Group GTC, and here it is now. So there goes Fraser Fenwick, and just ahead is Jared Wilburski. Now it may well be there was a bit of back marker lappery last time through for Jared Wilburski. And they're both closing in on Mark Smith, actually, the race leader. So let's have a quick look up towards the braking area for Murray's. I think the top three have pretty much got themselves together. Over the start-finish line comes Mark Smith, the black and the day-glow pink McLaren, followed by Jared Waberski, followed by Fraser Fenwick, and Jared Waberski sets the fastest lap of the race. He does a 2:02, exactly that time through. So exactly to the nearest 1,000th of a second, bang on 2:02. And the top three were separated by 3 seconds when they came over the start-finish line. But Mark Smith is definitely getting caught, isn't he, by the Group GTC Lamborghini, and this would be such a great way to get the season underway for Jared Waberski, who shares the car with Mark Havers this weekend. So they've had no luck at all. They've not been present at any race meetings other than the first one where they had the engine issue and the test day the day prior. So it's a late start to the year for them, but a win in their first race would be a great way to kick things off. They go past Paul Bailey's Ferrari 296. Paul just staying out of harm's way, allowing the race leading trio to work their way through. But Mark Smith feeling the pinch here, the American who picked up the lead of the race early on. And Jared Waberski there in second place. Fraser Fenwick in third place, sharing with Ian Campbell this weekend. Now Jared Waberski, can he unpick the lead of the race? The two Group GTC Lamborghinis, which run to Super Trofeo specification, are being held up at this stage by the McLaren that runs the GT3 specification, and Jared Waberski works his way alongside Mark Smith down the Bentley straight. I think he's going to have his nose ahead, is he, of the American when they get in towards Brundle and Nelson? No, he's not quite. Mark Smith still holds it. Jared Waberski tries on the outside at Brundle, but then has to shortcut onto the grass. How is he going to rejoin on wet grass? As carefully as he can is the answer, and he is going to rejoin in second place. So he almost lost things there, but actually has ended up coming back onto the circuit in exactly the same spot as he left it when he made that brief trip onto the grass. So the run round the outside at Brundle just not offering up enough grip for the South African there, so tucks himself back behind Mark Smith. Had to be careful with the rejoin there as well. He'll have been hugely conscious of making sure that he rejoined as safely as he could, albeit he was still sort of not fully in control. Over the start-finish line they'll go. Mark Smith, Jared Waberski, Fraser Fenwick, all busy squabbling away. Jared Waberski's got to be careful. He wants to attack. He might have to defend as well, but he's got the inside line going on the inside of Ritchie's. Jared Waberski retakes the lead of the race. Mark Smith there in second, but now drops to third as Fraser Fenwick goes through whilst the door is open. So it's Lamborghini from Lamborghini. Lock of the break from Jared Waberski, but still manages to apex the car beautifully going in towards the Wilson hairpin, and that time through, the fastest lap of the race goes to Fraser Fenwick with a time of a 2 minutes 1.961, which is better the split second later by Peter Ersig's Audi, which now does a 2 minute 1.210. So the fastest lap time bouncing around as you would expect as the track conditions continually improve. More traffic to deal with. That's Brent Millage's Ginetta, which moves out of harm's way. Good to see Brent back racing after, what, 4 or 5 years away. Did race a Ginetta in GT Cup some years ago with reasonable success, but good to see him back in the GT Cup Championship. So 8.5 minutes to go. Jared Waberski leading the way, whose father Garth Waberski used to race in the UK back in, what, the 1990s. He got as far as, I think, British Formula 3, did Garth Waberski. On second generation, equally as quick. But Jared is going to have his hands full here because Fraser Fenwick is not that far behind. The two cars being run by Top Cats Racing. And the one thing, of course, we don't want to see are two Top Cats cars coming together. We did have that unfortunate incident at Brands Hatch, which put both cars out and brought them out an early halt to the race. Fraser Fenwick still sort of feeling slightly second-hand, as we heard in the interview following that incident with Peter Aronson, it was at the time. Peter not with us this weekend, so two Top Cats cars close together, both pushing hard at this stage. Jared Waberski new to sports car racing this year. Fraser Fenwick with a whole season under his belt, but he was new to sports car racing last year, and as the two of them come over the start-finish line, it's Jared Waberski now that sets the fastest lap of the race. And for the first time, we are sub 2 minutes, 1 minute 57.466 from Jared Waberski. But right with him still is Fraser Fenwick, who was literally, what's that, 18 thousandths of a second slower over the course of the previous lap. So they are absolutely matching each other for pace. And now, bizarrely, having had rain earlier on, the sun is shining up at the top part of the circuit. So through Ritchie's and the Wilson hairpin and Palmer, and even now down into Agostini's, just a little bit of gap in that dark cloud that we have above us. Through Agostini, these are cars fighting not just for the lead of the race overall. They are both in the same group, both running in Group GTC for the Cup specification cars. Fraser Fenwick looks one way, but isn't going to try anything as they head up towards the braking area for Oggy, so still just going to sit behind the race-leading number 58 machine. After Oggy's, it's round through Williams and onto the Bentley Straight. Mark Smith, who was leading the race and was overtaken by these two Lamborghinis, has now fallen 7 seconds adrift in second position. And there's going to be more traffic to deal with before too much longer, which is going to be the number 99 car of Owen Hizzy, who had qualified on pole in Group GT8, but I think, again, he was one of those cars that opted to dive for the pit lane. He's now 13th overall and third in Group GT8, and is about to be gobbled up by the race leaders. So through goes Wilberski, through goes Fenwick, and Hizzy stays out of harm's way and lets him go through at the wheel of his SVG Motorsport prepared Ginetta G56. Onto the brakes and about to complete lap number 8, which I suspect will be even quicker again than the 1 minute 57.4 that was achieved last time through by Jared Wilberski. There's more traffic to deal with as well as they come over the start-finish line. This is going to be Archie Clark at the wheel of the championship-leading Feathers Motorsport Aston Martin. Through go the leading pair, and yes, not unsurprisingly, track conditions improve. Another new fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 55.592. And if you're wondering why I keep mentioning the fastest laps, it's because the fastest lap that you set in this race gives us the grid for the pit stop race later on. So at the moment, we had the number 23 Lamborghini on pole position after qualifying this morning for the second race later on today, the pit stop race. At the moment, it's the number 58 Lamborghini that we're heading towards pole, because it's just set the fastest lap we've seen. Darren Kell over the start-finish line. He's slowly making progress. He's got himself ahead of Simon Griffiths now, so that McLaren up into 5th position. Down to 6th goes Simon Griffiths, but that won't worry him. He still leads Group GTH, which is all he needs to do for the GT4 homologated cars. And in fact, is he going to have a nibble at Darren Kell? I think he is he? Up towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin. Yep, through he goes. Not a great deal Darren Kell can do about that. If you're on the right tyre at the right time, there's nothing you can do to defend from, or to if you're on the right tyre at the right time, you just are like a hot knife through butter. If you're on the wrong tyre, then you're just a sitting duck in reality. I think that's the issue there. Darren Kell overtaken by a GT4 car in his GT3, and that's because one's on the right tyre, which will be the slick, and the other one is probably on the wrong tyre, which will be the wet. The fastest lap of the race, say from Jared Wilberski last time through, he's on lap number 10 at the moment with 4 minutes remaining. Now Simon Griffiths is up into 5th position. I think that is probably the highest that we've had a Group GTH car all year. Yeah, we've had 9th place from Archie Clark and Tom Canning. I think it would have been Archie Clark. No, Archie Clark and Tom Canning would have been in the Donington 100 race. But if we can usher up a Group GTC car inside the top 6, that'll be for the first time this year. Over the start-finish line, new fastest lap of the race to Jared Wilberski again, 1 minute 53.586 that time through. But who's in his mirrors, looming ever large? It's still Fraser Fenwick, who is not going away, is he? So the two teammates still pushing each other terribly hard. The relative times between the pair of them, 1/1000th of a second last time through. 1:53.586 from the race leader, new fastest lap. 1:53.587 from Fraser Fenwick. So they are both absolutely matched for pace. Fantastic to see. And they've been fairly matched for pace the last few laps as well. Yeah, just 18 thousandths of a second, then hardly even a tenth of a second, and that time 1/1000th of a second. There's been very little difference between them. They're still only separated by 3.5 tenths as they came over the start-finish line at the end of the lap. And Mark Smith, who was right with them, wasn't he, leading the race, now 26, nearly 27 seconds behind this pair. So just going to show the difference of being on the correct tyre and being on the wrong tyre. I said at the beginning, I thought those that changed to wets probably made the wrong decision. And whilst it wouldn't be pleasant on slicks for the first few laps, if you just kept the car on the tarmac, the race would come back to you. And I think other teams read the same probably weather forecast. I looked at the skies in the same way that I did and rolled the dice a little bit. Yeah, it's difficult. It doesn't make it pleasant for the first few laps, and you are putting the car at risk, of course, whilst you're doing that. But just drive to the conditions if you're able to. If you don't have the confidence, of course, absolutely change to slicks. Change to wets rather. Through and over that the start-finish line now go, and Fraser Fenwick this time gets a run as they try and deal with Mac Priestwood's car, and Fraser Fenwick's drawing himself fully alongside. They've got Graham Tilley's Lamborghini just up the road, but Fraser Fenwick has got the job done. Jared Roberski tries to break as late as they head in towards Ritchie's corner. They lean on each other, they just about give each other room, and Graham Tilley now needs to move out of harm's way as the race-leading charge comes through. Good driving from Graham, using all of the experience he's got just to stay out of harm's way as the race leaders flick their way past. But with a minute and a half to go, so they should be on to their last lap of the race. Fraser Fenwick, the pole sitter, has picked up the lead of the race, and more importantly, it's picked up the fastest lap of the race, which could see him on pole position for the pit stop race later on. 1 minute 53.288 from Fraser last time through. Now he's led the race, he's just built an extra couple of car lengths gap between himself and Jared Roberski, who locked the brakes again there in towards the braking area for Agostini. But the lead advantage is just opening up. So considering that Fraser was tucked up behind the Lamborghini, once he's through, already 2 or 3 car lengths gap between himself and erstwhile race leader. And there's very little time for Roberski to fight back, and making a mistake going in towards Williams won't help as well, because you could see the car was crossed up a little bit there, had to get off the gas, which means that will have delayed his exit coming out of the corner, and onto the most important straight, the long straight, the Bentley straight that brings the cars now down in towards the braking area for Brundle and Nelson. And the clock has got 30 seconds on it, so they might just squeeze another lap out of this one. With the track conditions improving, lap times coming down all of the time, Fraser Fenwick might be over the start-finish line just before the clock ticks to 0, but I think it's probably going to be the last lap that they are on at the moment. I'm sure it will be, as they turn their way up towards the braking area for Murray's. 10 seconds to go on the clock. He's not quite going to make it to the start-finish line before the clock ticks to 0, and that will please Fraser Fenwick, because it means he's only had to lead for the final half a lap. Through he comes, and it's Fraser Fenwick and Top Cats Racing. They make it a 1-2 in round 8 of the championship, with Jared Roberski finishing for the team in 2nd position overall. Mark Smith is there in 3rd. Now this is Owen Hizzy fighting away with Archie Clark, and this will be for 2nd and 3rd in Group GTH. So Owen Hizzy going through and ahead of Archie Clark on the final lap. They've got bearing down on the car that's 3rd overall, which is Mark Smith, the American. He's going to finish in 3rd position overall. The winning Group GTH is going to go the way of Simon Griffiths, who is a long, long way up the road in his Ginetta. But this has been a good fight, actually, for 2nd and 3rd in Group GTH. Through comes Peter Ursig. He'll finish in 4th place, a lap off the lead. It was only the top 3 cars, was it, that finished? No, Peter Ursig is the last car to finish on the lead lap. Mark Smith comes through and finishes in 4th position. Actually, he's on the lead lap as well, finishing in 4th place. Simon Griffiths should be through in 5th. And then it'll be James Keller who will finish in 6th place. So here comes the Group GTH leading car. So it is going to be a win in Group GTH for Simon Griffiths, and that will please him, because that is now their 3rd win of the year in Group GTH for Innovation Racing with Cresta. So good run from him, dealing with the conditions and actually working his way right up to the sharp end, wasn't he, in the early stages. But that is a very unusual race. To have such changeable conditions in a sprint race is very unusual indeed. The win in Group GTA is going to go the way of the number 24 BMW in the hands of Ian Astley. He is there fighting away with Paul Bailey, but there's going to be a full lap between the BMW and the Ferrari, but it's going to be a win in Group GTA for the BMW M4 GT4, prepared by Andy Johnson, the SVG Motorsport team. So it's been a good result for them. Richard Chamberlain comes through to finish in 9th position. 10th place will be Jack Gadd after his spin, and 11th place will be Graham Tilley. He is actually the first car that is off the lead lap. I do apologise, Graham Tilley in 11th is the first of the cars that's off the lead lap. But I think that's everybody through to take the checkered flag. The only car that I don't think we've seen take the checkered flag, must have retired somewhere out on circuit, will be number 63 Frank Morris, who unfortunately did not see the checkered flag in what was a strange old race, really. But for Fraser Fenwick, well, he dropped from the lead of the race down to 2nd, down to 3rd, I think even briefly down to 4th, but held his nerve, focused on the job in hand, worked his way back through the order, and he wins round 8 of the championship, and that is going to be the first overall win for them. They finished 3rd, did Fraser Fenwick, stroke Ian Campbell in Brands Hatch in the sprint race, but they claim the overall win in round 8 of the championship here, with Jared Roberski in 2nd place and Peter Ursig in third place, securing top honours in Group GT3. Mark Smith was fourth, with Simon Griffiths, the first of the cars home, in Group GTH, in fifth place, and it was going to be Darren Kell in sixth place. James Cayley finished in seventh place. Ian Astley was the winner of Group GTA in eighth place overall. Richard Chamberlain and Jack Gadd completed the top 10. Then as we move outside of the top 10, it was Graham Tilley in 11th, ahead of Owen Hizzy in 12th place, in Archie Clark in 13th. Brent Millage, Paul Bailey, Matt Eddles and Doc Bush were next up, ahead of Mac Priestwood, and the only retirements that we had was the unfortunate Frank Morris, who disappeared somewhere on lap number 3 of the race. Well, that was an interesting race. I did say the weather forecast was due to be changeable, and it certainly was throughout the course of that race. It may well be changeable later on when we have our pit stop race. Remember, fastest laps in the race just set will give us the grid for the pit stop race, and that pit stop race will all be brought to you live at around about 4 o'clock this afternoon. The race is due to go green at 4:05. The live stream will start probably 5 or 10 minutes before that. So thanks for joining us from a slightly wet Snetterton. We'll catch you later on this afternoon. Until then, we'll say goodbye.